Good afternoon, everyone. Bon après-midi et tous. Welcome to the candidates debate for Mayor of Riverview for the May 10th municipal election. Bienvenue au débat des candidats à la maire de Riverview pour les élections municipales de 10 mai. I'm John Wishart, the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce for Greater Moncton. And with me today is Sylvain Montraille, who is our Director of Communications and Policy. Together, we will moderate and host today's 45-minute debate. The Chamber believes providing a platform for debate on and discussion on key municipal issues is part of our mandate in the community. And we're therefore very pleased to present two mayoral debates today. This one for the two candidates in Riverview is following a debate that just finished with the two Moncton candidates. There is no race for mayor in Débat. And as I mentioned during the Moncton debate, the happiest person in the room today is Yvon Lapierre. Félicitations to Yvon for another mandate. Today's debates will include opening statements, questions prepared by the Chamber after we reached out to our members, followed by some one-on-one debating on those questions, and then questions from our audience, and then some closing statements. And please, at any time, if you have a question you'd like to pose to either Tammy or Andrew, you can post it using the chat function. We'll try to get to as many as possible in 45 minutes, but those that we don't get to, we would like to package them up and send them to the two candidates if they'd like to follow up directly. To explain the format of the debate, I'll now turn the microphone over to Sylvain.
Yeah, just a quick reminder. Thank you, John. Basically, we'll have 2 minutes opening statement from each candidate, and after that, the questions we'll have from the chamber. We'll pose a question. One candidate will answer, the other candidate will be able to respond, a minute and a half each to respond. And after that, we have a quick minute. We're giving you 30 seconds each to try to add on to that topic, and this way we'll be able to have at least 5 or 6 questions in the next the 45 minutes that we have allowed for that debate. After that, basically, we can we open actually the past few weeks. We ask people from Riverview, from the Greater Moncton area, to have some questions. So we have questions already prepared, but also it's open for the floor. So we'll have 8 minutes allowed basically, and we'll have questions and 1 minute each to respond on each question. So we'll try to jam the most questions we have in the next few minutes for you. So if you have questions and you're a participant, please use the chat function at the bottom, and we'll be able to add those questions to the list that we already have. So John, I think back to you for the opening statement.
Thanks very much, Sylvain. Before I do the introductions, I want to mention we're partnering with Rogers TV on the debates today. You'll be able to watch the debate starting tonight on Rogers TV and on the Rogers website. They will be replayed several times leading up to the May 10th election. We will also post a recording of the debates on our chamber website, ccgm.ca, for free viewing starting tomorrow morning. So I would like to officially welcome Tammy Raprasad and Andrew Leblanc to the debate. Both Tammy and Andrew are current town councillors, and I think it's not too much of an opinion for me to say that Riverview is fortunate to have such a great choice for mayor on May 10th. Okay, so let's get to the fun part. After a random draw, it's been determined that Tammy will deliver the first 2-minute opening statement, followed by Andrew, and then at the end, we'll reverse that order. So Tammy, the floor is yours for 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Tammy Raprasad, and I'm running. I come well prepared for the job, having served 5 years on town council, combined with corporate, nonprofit, and charitable work. In my 3rd year and pre-COVID, I took on the role as deputy mayor when the support was needed the most. As a future mayor of Riverview, I will focus on sustainable and responsible growth for Riverview. Riverview is a great place to grow, loved for its unique community-minded personality. It offers stellar programming and events for all ages. It's important that we continue to actively seek growth opportunities that fit mayor, I will ensure we're working on long-term goals and vision, staying on scope to bring sustainable changes. We will also seek growth opportunities that are a good fit for Riverview to grow our tax base, strengthen our services, and offset the cost of capital projects. Such opportunities include leveraging funding to develop town assets aimed at attracting tourism dollars, working toward expansion of shared transportation that meets the needs of our changing community, continuing to build strong partnerships within the great community to see it thrive. Having a strong voice will lead our town. To lead our town is vital. We need to be represented at all tables, advocating for the best interests of our community. I will be a full-time mayor dedicated toward Riverview's biggest champion and cheerleader at regional, provincial, and federal levels to advocate for our fair share of resources, funding, and engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Now it is time for Andrew Leblanc for his opening 2-minute statement. Andrew.
Thank you very much. Like John said, my name is Andrew Leblanc, and I'm running to be the next mayor of the town of Riverview. Before we get going, I want to thank the Chamber and, of course, Rogers TV for organizing today, and of course, all of you for tuning in to hear what the mayoral candidates have to say. You know, I'm passionate about working in my community and trying to make a difference and helping to create a better quality of life for our residents. Over the last nearly 20 years, I've worked in the nonprofit sector to support children, youth, and families. First, in my career at the Boys and Girls Club of Riverview, and currently as the executive director for Atlantic Wellness, which is a youth mental health organization. Over the last 9 years, I've had the honor of serving on town council as one of your councilors at large, and currently I serve as the deputy mayor. Like all municipalities, Riverview certainly has its fair share of challenges in front of us, but we also have a lot of opportunity as well. We need to work to create a safe and inclusive community for residents of all generations, cultures, and backgrounds. We need to put a focus on sustainable growth and building the kind of community that both our residents and our businesses want to see. We also need to work at enhancing communication, engagement, and representation with a focus on transparency. I believe that through teamwork and collaboration, we can address a number of priorities facing our town, like public safety, looking at a variety of social issues, increasing our investment in recreational assets, and creating a community that enables local businesses to thrive. I'm running for mayor because I have the experience, the skill set, and the passion to lead our team both in tackling the challenges and trying to capitalize on the opportunities. In my career as a nonprofit manager, I've gained a strong skill set in leadership, governance, fiscal management, collaborating with community partners, advocating with provincial and federal levels of government, and building important relationships to tackle big challenges, all of which are really important to be a successful mayor. I've grown up in Riverview. I'm raising my family here, and through my community work, I've helped the town grow, and now I'm ready to lead that growth. And so on May 10th, I would be honored to have your support as the next mayor of the town of Riverview. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. So now I'll turn the mic over to Sylvain, who will lead us off in our series of questions. Sylvain?
Thank you, John. First question is actually Riverview residents are enjoying the lowest tax rates of any of the 3 municipalities in the region here in Greater Moncton. But with the hot real estate market at the moment, an assessment likely to rise significantly next year, would you be open as mayor to reducing the rate to ease the overall tax burden on residents? Andrew, you're first to answer.
Well, thank you, Sylvain. I think as a responsible leader, we have to be open to all options. We have to make sure that we're coming to the table and willing to have those conversations. At this point in time, I wouldn't be willing to commit to lowering taxes until we have a really wholesome look at what the situation is, what the long-term impact would be on things like our capital budget and our capital plan. But of course, as municipal leaders, we want to do whatever we can to make sure that we're, enhancing the quality of life for our residents, that we're doing whatever we can to make sure that we're able to maintain our service levels for our residents. And all options, I think, need to be on the table, but that's not something that I would be prepared to commit to without having a more fulsome discussion around that particular issue.
Thank you, Andrew. Tammy, you have actually 1.5 minutes if you want to add on, respond to that question.
Thank you very much. And I'm really thankful for us throughout campaigning. So for myself, I'm also not willing to commit to say that we would do that. The conversations need to happen, absolutely. I've talked to so many folks at the doors that really have felt the increase in assessments this year. And we, at this point in time, we really don't know how long that trend will last, what that will look like next year, and the impact on our residents. I'm very much in favor of long-term capital planning for our projects and for what we want to see come to be and strengthen our services, and look at what really we have in store for the next few years in terms of our own planning, as well as the trends, and see what the assessment rate is going to be going forward. But again, that's something that we need to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. We have 1 minute that is, well, that we can debate. You seem to be on the same page, both of you. But Andrew, you have 30 seconds if you want to add on.
Sure. Look, I think the next council is going to have a lot of challenging situations to look at, and I'm sure we're going to get into a lot of them today with the questions that we face. But I think this is just one of the examples where, you know, we're going to have to work as a team to have those conversations. We have an incredible staff team. We've had an incredible council team that has worked really hard to plan for the future, and that process is always obviously going to have to continue, and we're going to have a lot of difficult conversations. Keeping in mind what's in the best interest of our municipality and what's going to make life easy for our residents.
Thank you, Andrew. Tammy, anything you want to add on?
Thank you. Yeah, our town it's phenomenal in so many ways, but the folks that work with our town have done such a great job over the last few years, really working well with us, not only in during the budget process and throughout the year for that, but to get a good grasp on our long-term planning, which is really the key here. So if we want to make sure that we're seeing our capital projects in line with seeing that through without hitting folks that live in our community in a deep way, right? So we need to plan for those projects while still maintaining the priorities that we have listed across the board. Streets are always a priority. Underground infrastructure within those streets is a priority. So that's why capital long-term planning comes into play here. But it's so important for us to continue having our residents and with one another.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Andrew. John, up to you now.
Sure.
Back to you actually for another question or a second.
Okay. I think certainly the biggest infrastructure project that's on the radar for Riverview is the new recreation complex. We know the town is talking with the province and federal government on cost sharing, but what happens if the senior levels of government don't come to the table? What happens if the project does not come in on time and on budget, which is the favorite phrase, I think, of politicians? Would you be willing to proceed without senior levels of support? And Tammy, you're first.
Thank you very much for that question. I've been working on this project since day one. So since 2012, actually, I've been involved in this project, and I've chaired this committee. So it's very near and dear to my heart. It's a great question, though, because we certainly don't know at this point in time what the commitment is from the other levels of government. We've been actively engaged with them, and we know that they know this is a priority. Think that both levels of government have a commitment to come to the table, but what will that look like, right? So we're having a possible scenario discussion out there. So we're looking at both of them coming to the table, but then what if the provincial government doesn't fund this project specifically the way that we want it funded, but they can fund something else, right? And so that helps us too, because we can look at funding that we had set aside for long-term projects being funded by the province and making up that difference. The federal government also in the past year has done something different that it was doing before. So before, if the provincial government wasn't coming to the table, they weren't going to put in time. So now there's an option that we could still have some federal help without the province, but we really want to see both come together. We have done long-term planning as well, and just in case, we have to look at the tax rate and see what that looks like going forward if they don't come to the table, and those are discussions we have to have.
Thank you, Tammy. Andrew, your response to that question.
Sure. Well, look, it's a great question. I think we have been doing a lot of work to look at the 10-year capital plan for the town of Riverview and looking at what kind of assets that our residents really want. This project, we're putting a lot into it because it is going to play a big role in the future of our town. We are hoping that it will be a catalyst for growth. It'll be a catalyst for residential and commercial development, and it'll play a big role in providing a lot of new amenities and services and programs to a diverse range of residents for our town. So we've got a lot invested in this. We have been working on it for a long time now. But that said, we're going to need somebody who's going to be a strong advocate for the town, working with the other levels of government to try and make sure that we can get across the finish line with this. If we can't, you know, there are other options of trying to cover different levels of funding. We're going to have to look into our capital plan, see if we can move things around. If it does look like there's going to be a major increase on the tax rate in order for us to cover, let's say the province doesn't come to the table with their portion, you know, that we'll have to take a hard look at what that project is going to look like in the future, because I think that would be a tough pill to swallow for residents to see such a massive increase in the tax rate in order to offset another level of government's funding. So, you know, I think it was mentioned, you know, we can look at options for funding other projects and diverting existing designated funds into this project. There's lots of options on the table. We'll have to explore them all.
Thanks, Andrew. Sylvain, back to, oh, sorry, we do have a 1 minute of debate on this question. So we'll start with Tammy.
Yep, I'm just to add to that, I wanted to add on to the value. It's been such an important project, and it will be going forward, but the positioning of the project was really well thought out too. And you know, we bumped up Bridgedale Boulevard to open up and be done for this past year, so that it, with the causeway closure, we wanted to make sure that folks in the East End had better access to get through town, but it also serves a greater purpose with the location of the Riverview Recreation Complex too. So it opens up so much potential in that neighborhood. As Andrew has stated, there's quite a bit going on. And when you make an investment like this in your community, you're showing to other people that you're making that investment. So folks are looking to move here for what the community is offering, but also folks that are looking to invest and start business, they're also looking for that commitment too.
Thank you. Thank you, Tammy. Andrew, response?
Sure. I mean, like I said, this is this particular project is playing a big role in the future of our town. We are looking to grow, and we're looking to grow in a sustainable way. And we think that this particular complex is going to play a pivotal role in the sustainability of our community moving forward. And it is going to be a catalyst to see a lot of different things happening. So I think it's important that we explore every possible option that might be on the table to try and either divert funding, or really advocate hard to get other sources of funding. Maybe we continue some fundraising plans or things like that. There's lots of options that we can look at. We just need to be diligent. We need to keep the team strong and keep looking at all of those potential options.
Thank you. Sylvain, next question is yours.
Yeah, John, thank you. Actually, Andrew and Tammy, you talked about growing Riverview and the town of Riverview, and that's the question we have for you. Actually, it's Riverview has a larger population than roughly half of New Brunswick cities at the moment, and yet it's still a town. So would you be willing to look at making an application for a city status instead of a town? First, it goes to Andrew, actually.
Sure, thank you. You know, this is actually something that comes up quite a bit from our residents, and consistently I'm hearing from our residents that there is no desire to do that. I think we focus a lot in Riverview on what the feel and the atmosphere is in our town. We focus on being a close-knit community. We like the fact that we are a town, and we get the question from the other municipalities all the time, when is it going to be the city of Riverview? That's not a priority for me. That's not something that I'm hearing residents giving me a mandate to do. And so it's not something that I would be pursuing. We have a number of other priorities that we need to focus on as a community, protecting the quality of life that our residents really love, looking at sustainable growth for the town, and addressing a number of key social issues and things like that. So there's a lot of other priorities that we really want to focus on. We can continue to grow as a municipality and protect what we love about our town so much, protect that close-knit community, protect that togetherness that we have. And I think that's what we should be focusing on is continuing to grow the town, but protecting our service levels, making sure we're investing properly, we're planning for the future. But I would be supportive of staying as a town because that's what the residents are telling me they want.
Thank you, Andrew. Tammy, what about you in terms of your campaign, a town or a city?
Yeah, thank you. I too, I've hit almost 3,000 doors this time around. I'm somebody that stays in contact with people all through my mandate and then some. And I am not hearing anybody in town request us becoming a city. I think that what folks really love about Riverview is its personality, its uniqueness, what we have to offer, and how we offer the services that we offer. So people have come to rely on the fact that we're stellar with our snow clearing. They've come to rely on all of the programming that and so people want to continue seeing us stay us. They want us to grow. Definitely. They want everything available to them locally that they can support and sustain themselves, but they want us to still honor the feeling and personality that we've come to love about Riverview.
Once again, we seem to be on the same page, and both of you seem to be on the same page, but I'm not sure, Andrew, do you have anything else that you want to add to that topic?
Sure. I mean, I think when it comes to growth, one of the big challenges that Riverview is going to face is growing in a sustainable way and making sure that we can protect those service levels that everybody loves. As Tammy mentioned, we really enjoy our snow clearing levels, for example, or the amount of programming and services that we can offer, the amount that we've invested into Mill Creek and our other outdoor recreation assets. These are all really key things that we want to keep doing. But as the municipality continues to grow, the costs are going to increase for providing those services as well. So we just have to make sure that we're growing in a sustainable way so that we can protect those service levels for our residents, but also protect that feeling and the close-knit community that everyone loves.
Thank you. Tammy, to finish that topic.
Sure. And I'll just add that's why it's so important that we do really strong long-term planning and stick to those long-term planning goals, right? So that our folks that live here don't feel like they're suffering in services, that the service levels are being enhanced and protected, but added to, right? So they want to see growth. We want to grow. We want to keep our own personality, but we want to protect ourselves at the same.
Thank you, Tammy. John, back to you for the next question.
Sure. So the province is in the midst of a major local government reform process. What's at stake for Riverview, and what changes would you like to see in positioning the town within some kind of new local government framework? Tammy, you're first.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm first vice president with the Union of Municipalities currently, and so I've been very fortunate to sit at the table throughout this process of the Green. Love that the provincial government is taking this very seriously. This has been something that the province has looked at and shied away from for many, many years. It is something that needs to be looked at. We need to look at taxation. We need to look at land planning. We need to make sure that we solidify those partnerships and shared services that we have, like we have here in the Greater Moncton area, but review. So we want to strengthen what we have. We want to see fair representation across the board throughout the province, but we want to maintain what we love about our community. So if we look at the green paper, it's very vague. There's quite a bit that could happen still within that process. And maybe the government right now knows exactly what they want to tackle. Maybe they don't. But I'm seeing a very heavy weight put on maybe regional regional service commissions, for example. So that will need to be looked at, because for us, our regional service commission works very, very well together. So they'll have to look at that and see what the right moves are.
Thank you, Tammy. Andrew?
So this is a really complex issue, and it's going to take a lot of discussion and a lot of work to really to get our way through it. As was mentioned, the green paper itself is fairly vague, and I think there's a lot of wiggle room in what these conversations are going to look like. Elephant in the room, when you talk about municipal reform, the one question we always get is, well, where do you stand on amalgamation? And so we get that question constantly. And so to be honest, I'm not in favor of amalgamation. It's not what our residents are telling us that they want, but I don't think it's in the best interest of Riverview either. But I think what we have in the southeastern region and in Greater Moncton in particular is a really strong collaborative spirit. Where it's been appropriate, we have regionalized our services. We are collaborating well. We can always continue to improve those things, and maybe through the municipal reform conversations, we'll identify some stronger strategies in terms of, regionalizing a better economic development approach or something like that. There's always opportunities for us to continue and grow. My focus in the conversation of municipal reform would be to regionalize services and partner together, but to try and work to maintain that independence that we have as a community. And there's a number of challenges we'll have to look at, like was mentioned, the land use planning piece in particular, where, you have residents coming from the more rural areas coming into our communities using our services, but they're not paying the same rates to cover those costs. And so those are some things that we're going to have to look at. We're going to have to advocate for, that everyone's paying their fair share, and that more urban communities are not, paying the bulk of, and I'm sure Moncton would say the exact same thing to Riverview as being the outside community across the river. But yeah, making sure everyone pays their fair share, and that we're working to really partner and collaborate well.
Thanks, Andrew. 1 minute of debate. Tammy, you're off first.
Thank you. And some of the important piece here is if we talk about the LSDs and the surrounding areas and them coming into town or coming into cities and sharing in services, that's great, but they're not taxed the same way. What has to happen here, and I think a big element of this, is education. So those folks, a lot of those folks don't even realize that they don't vote the same way. They don't even realize that they live outside of town, some of those folks. And so it's really important that they get the information as well and understand why this process is very important. A lot of people in town might realize it, but a lot of people outside town don't. And so again, if we're talking about amalgamation, I agree 100%. Folks here and myself do not want to see that happen. Shared services, absolutely. And more collaboration, absolutely. But we want to protect what we do best in Riverview.
Okay. Andrew, you have 15 seconds if you'd like a final word.
Okay, well, look, I think a lot of those comments are really valid, and we just need to look at making sure that there's equal representation and everything is fair for everybody. And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, Sylvain?
Yes, we're starting to see actually some large multi-unit residential development, but the twin 10-story project plan for the riverfront still stirs a controversy in Riverview. What is your vision for economic development for the town? Is Riverview open for commercial development, and how would you support that? The question goes to Andrew.
Well, I didn't anticipate a question on the Chocolate River Station building. That was,
Really?
Listen, this is a really important question when it comes to talking about the future of our town. It ties into so many different things in terms of how we're supporting our existing businesses in Riverview, and what are we doing to build a community where local businesses can really thrive and be supported in our town. We want Riverview to be a welcoming community. We want Riverview to be a municipality where residents have all the services that they want, but also a community where businesses can come and set up. Now, I don't see us being a community that's trying to recreate Mapleton Park or look at big box stores coming into Riverview. Residents are telling me that that's not what they see for our town, and that's not what I see. I think we've done really well at supporting local businesses. We need to be open to commercial development, and I think some of the projects we're seeing with mixed use, where there's commercial on the bottom, residential on top, trying to be creative in the types of developments that we're seeing. I think all of those things are going to be really important in trying to have a good economic development process, but also strengthening some of the regional work that we're doing. There's been a lot of conversations about how we can work closer as the tri-community, how we can enhance some of the areas that maybe aren't working so well, and that's going to have to be the focus, I think, moving forward.
Tammy, sorry, Tammy. I was muted. Sorry, guys. So what is your vision, Tammy, on your side for economic development with the town?
Yeah, I think it's great that we're growing. I think that I think the vision is to continue growing, but growing still to maintain that personality that I keep coming back to. So what's been great is over the last couple of years, we've been more open and developers have been more open to discussing what the needs are in the community. And I think that this is why civic engagement is so important. We need to know what our residents want to see in the community and what they need, and we need to advocate for that. So folks are going to set up shop here if they know that they're going to be successful. Maximize that and partner with our residents and make sure that their needs are being met. So we've had a number of folks wanting to downsize and move into apartment buildings, and we've never had in town underground parking, for example, available. And we were finding that we were losing a lot of our seniors looking for that over to Moncton and Dieppe. And so we started having more open discussion with our developers and made that happen here, which is lovely, so that now those options exist. We also have a number of young adults property, but also who don't. They don't know if they're going to be here for a long time, or maybe they are, but they're not ready to really plant themselves still. They might want to pursue education somewhere else, and they want to have these these places available for themselves as well. Now, partnering and coupling onto this conversation is the fact that we really need to work well with developers to make sure that we do have affordable housing for the needs in our community, and make sure that we're working with the provincial government too, to make sure that there's rent control that goes with that too.
Okay, thank you, Tammy. We have a final minute of debate between the two of you. Andrew, you can start if you want to add to that topic.
Sure. I mean, I think this is a really broad subject, and there's been some really great points brought up so far. But I think, we're looking at sustainable growth for the town, and a big part of that, I've been talking to some business owners recently just about even the recent causeway closure. How does that impact our local businesses, and how are they going to stay sustainable in Riverview? And this is a multifaceted approach that we need to take to economic development, and making sure that we can ensure that our local businesses are able to sustain themselves, that people are shopping local, that we're, bringing people in to live here, ideally bringing people that might be able to work here. I think there's a lot of learning lessons from COVID-19 where people are starting to work from home now. We're seeing a change in the way businesses operate. I've seen that in my own business. We've made those changes as well. And so all of those factors need to be considered when we're looking at how to support economic growth and development for the town.
Tammy, 30 seconds to finish that topic.
And yes, absolutely. It's interesting because this COVID lens has been through the COVID lens. So what we're living right now and what will our future look like? So we need to pivot and make some change. Brought so many hardships, but it's taught us a lot. Right? So we've learned how to be more creative and how to maximize our potential in some areas. And we've made continuous investments every single year for several years in Mill Creek Park, for instance. But a lot of people here that lived right here didn't know that. And then during COVID, they did. So I think during COVID and during the time frame where the causeway is closed, I think it's a great opportunity for us to really show people that live in town what we have right here in our community, what businesses exist, and how they can effectively support them and keep them here and thriving. So there's always opportunity, and I think that this is one of those opportunity moments for us.
Okay. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Andrew, for your answers on questions we prepare. Now we have we're opening the floor. Actually, we received some questions already by mail, by forms that we filled out in the past week. Actually, John, back to you for the first one.
Thank you, Sylvain. A reminder to our candidates: you'll have 1 minute each to respond, and there won't be any follow-up debate following that. So, somebody posted a question in the chat that I just love this question. So here it goes. If you could change one thing about Riverview, what would it be? And what is the one thing you would definitely not change about Riverview? And we'll go to Tammy first.
That's an interesting one. And I'm sure in 5 minutes I would have a different answer. But right now, what I would change is I think our own pride and ownership in running for mayor. We need to be more proud and loud. We need to advocate more on behalf of ourselves, but we need to also know what a gem we are, and really honor that, and find a good way to support that and share that. You know, folks from, I've heard so many times, folks from Moncton and Débat, like, why would we ever go to Riverview? There's so many reasons to come over to Riverview. Look at Holy Whale, for example, and how they've been a driver of people from all over coming to visit us. So I think we need to be loud and proud about ourselves. Something I wouldn't change, again, our personality is phenomenal. We have the greatest people working with the town, and they are so forward-thinking, progressive, and they take chances. And I wouldn't change that for the world. I think that folks.
Thanks, Tammy. And thanks for that reference to Holy Whale. That's definitely a reason to go to Riverview any day of the week. So Andrew, 1 minute response.
Oh, if I had a magic wand and could change anything right now, I guess I would open the causeway and have that project finished. But I think realistically, the one thing that I might change, and one thing that I plan on changing, is how we collaborate as a community with between the municipality and community agencies, and how we communicate, you know, between our schools and different organizations like that. We need to partner more. We need to have big conversations around issues like drug use in the town and bullying and things like this. And, you know, we all have a role to play in some of these larger complex issues. There needs to be more dialogue on that. We've started some of that work already, but it needs to continue to grow and to continue to change. What I would keep I would keep most things about Riverview. I love our town. I think it's an incredible place to live. That's why I've chosen to get involved so heavily in my community. I think the one thing that I really like is our approach we're taking on connecting our residents together, whether that's through outdoor recreation, trail networks and programs and services, or whether it's the Canada Day Festival and things like that. That needs to be protected no matter what we do, that close-knit connection that we have as a community, and the approach we've taken to do that needs to be protected.
Thank you. Sylvain?
Next question is on immigration. I think the province needs an intake, an important intake to basically help the well, not the recovery, but any economic development in the province. So what is your goal in terms of immigration for the town of Riverview? The question goes to Andrew first.
Sure. Well, obviously, this is something that's really important, especially if we're going to look at population growth for the town of Riverview. If we're going to look at, you know, diversifying our municipality and attracting new business owners to town, this plays a really strong role in that. So I think there's been some great conversations around the local immigration partnership to date. I think there's some really good work that's happening there. We obviously want to continue doing that. We also want to make sure we maintain that strong relationship and that regionalized approach that we're taking to this particular issue, because I think that's where we're going to see success when it comes to working with the province and other levels of government to really make change to make sure that we're really effective in doing that. And so, you know, my approach would be to continue to sit at those tables, to continue to explore internally ways that Riverview can market ourselves, to position ourselves as a municipality that'll be welcoming to newcomers, and to help advocate for making that transition and process as streamlined as possible.
Thank you, Andrew. 1 minute for you, Tammy.
Thank you. This is such an important topic for so many reasons. And I think that the regional strategy has been so powerful. You know, we've moved here almost like just after 14 years ago, and we've seen such a growth in diversity in our region. And we as a family are really proud of that. And we need to see that strengthened and just grow. So we definitely need to be at that table as a strong voice. And locally, we also need to really create and make sure that we are that kind of community that is welcoming and accepting, and these folks want to be our neighbors and live with us and know that they are protected and have the opportunity to thrive. So we need to create that kind of atmosphere here in town and work hard to maintain that, and work at all tables to entice newcomers to come to the province, to our region, and to our town. Absolutely.
Okay, I think we'll try to squeeze in one final question from the audience, and then we'll get to the closing statements. Are you comfortable with the level of transparency at Town Council? Do citizens truly see what is being done, or is there work to be done there? Tammy, we'll start with you. 1 minute.
Thank you. As I said, folks that work with the town do an amazing job. So the communication that's put out by the town is stellar. We push out our messaging and what's happening really, really well. We post everything that happens in our meetings, the agenda, all of that information. Part of the reason why I'm running for mayor is can do a better job. I think that there's a role for us as council and for mayor, the position of mayor, to be that leader in the community and lead by example. And one of those things is really civic engagement and having that open conversation. They know what's going on. There's so many things that happen in the town that people just don't understand. And when you have that dialogue with them and explain the hows and whys and the history, they look at it so differently and it makes sense to them. So we need to do all we can, especially in the world we're living in right now, where everything is so immediate and folks really look at headlines instead of digging deep. We need to know that that's how things are, and we need to pivot and accommodate that. We need to make sure that we're talking to people in the way that they're listening, and we're also absorbing what they care about.
Thank you. So Andrew, over to you.
This is a great question. I think when it comes to communication, it's one of those things where if you ever feel like you've gotten to a position where, yeah, we've done it, everything that we need to do for communication, we're there, you failed at that point. There's always more to do to communicate. There's always ways you can adapt as a community, as a municipality, especially. It's 2021. There's a lot more technology at our fingertips to be able to get information out to people. This has always been a really strong priority for me. And so I want to highlight a couple of things that I've done. I provide a council highlights after every council meeting. You can go on my Facebook page and get a summary of what happened in that meeting. Of course, it's from my perspective. I also chair the Civic Engagement Committee that brought live streaming to Town Council in Riverview, and now residents can go online and access all those meetings. And I also created a video podcast called Town Talk, and I will shamelessly plug that right now. You can go on Facebook, and we cover all the big issues that are happening in Riverview. We've talked about Bridgedale Boulevard, the Chocolate River Station, the Petitcodiac River. We also feature a lot of local businesses and community organizations. And so that's been a great way to communicate with residents, to give them a more in-depth look at some of the issues that council is discussing, to make sure that they're as informed as possible. We've seen through the campaign that live Q&As work really well. We need to explore and adapt all of these strategies to complement the in-person work that we do for people who might not necessarily be on social media. There's a lot of work to do on communication. There will always be a lot of work to do on communication. That's just the reality, and we should always be striving to improve.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for Q&A. So we'll close off the debate today with 1 minute closing statements by both candidates. As we mentioned off the top, these will be given in the reverse order of our opening statements. So Andrew, you will go first.
All right. Well, thank you so much. You know, on May 10th, voters are going to decide who's going to lead the next council team. The next mayor needs to be an experienced leader, must be someone who can bring people together and collaborate effectively with our community. Someone who not only has a seat at the table, but brings a strong and relevant skill set to that table. And as somebody with a background in governance and leadership, community engagement, advocacy, and collaboration, I have the experience and the skills to lead our town in order to tackle the challenges that we're going to face and capitalize on the opportunities that are in front of us. So I'm asking you to vote for someone who's experienced, committed, and here for you, someone who has spent their life giving back to the community, someone who is committed to transparency and being the strongest advocate possible for our residents. So on May 10th, please vote Andrew J. Leblanc to be your next mayor of the town of Riverview. And John and Sylvain, I want to thank you and the chamber and Rogers TV as well, and Councillor Rampersad for being a part of this as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. Tammy, your 1 minute closing statement.
Thank you. And first, I just want to quickly thank you all so much for having us and allowing us this forum. Riverview is a great place to grow. We're the 5th largest municipality in New Brunswick with over 20,000 residents. The role of Riverview Mayor is that of a CEO of a $50 million business. You don't run a $50 million business part-time. Riverview residents deserve a full-time mayor, not one whose priorities will be their young family first and their full-time job second, leaving a handful of hours a week to dedicate to being mayor. Regardless of how much a person delegates to others, the job of mayor requires more than full-time hours. You're less impactful, less effective when you can't engage the time. I won't be handcuffed like my opponent. As Riverview Mayor, I'll be giving 100% of my time, coupled with my vast experience and my commitment to keep putting Riverview first. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. I'm afraid that's all the time we have. I'd like to thank Tammy Rampersad and Andrew Leblanc for taking the time to join us today and presenting their visions for Riverview. Remember, you can rewatch the debate on either Rogers TV or the Rogers website starting tonight, or on the Chamber's website tomorrow morning, leading up to Election Day. And speaking of Election Day, please don't forget to vote. Traditionally, the turnout for municipal elections has been less than stellar, less than 40%. Of course, if you're engaged enough to listen in today, you're likely going to vote, but please remind your friends and neighbors. Thanks again to our 2 candidates, Rogers, and you, our audience. Au nom de Sylvain et de toute l'équipe de la Chambre, je vous souhaite une excellente journée. On behalf of Sylvain and the entire Chamber team, thanks for joining us and have a pleasant afternoon. Bye for now.